Episode 131, PR for Lead Generation.
Welcome to the PR Playbook Podcast, the only podcast giving you actionable skills and advice you need to execute a strategic PR program. Warning: what you hear next may lead to brand awareness and increased sales and customer exposure. Now here's your host, Rinjini Joshua.
Hello and welcome to episode 131. Today I'm excited to interview Tara Lassiter for lead generation. We're going to talk about PR for lead generation. She is a customer journey strategist. And Tara, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Rajini. I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited to reframe the way we look at lead generation and funnels and how we run our business. Let's bring something fun and positive to that.
I love it. I love it. That's great. And you know what? I really like having this conversation in relation to PR because a lot of our customers, right now it's kind of like a volatile market. And so a lot of our customers are asking us, well, how are you getting us sales? And when you're
Mhm.
working with B2B clients, it's like PR doesn't convert as quickly as they want it to.
Mhm.
But then there's also a number of things they should be doing with the PR that we do generate so that they can optimize that conversion rate. So let's just start with a quick background about you before we get started into talking about this whole lovely topic.
Okay. Well, before my life as a customer journey strategist and copywriter, I was actually a model and actress. My main client was QVC. There was one show where we sold body butter for an hour and we sold $1 million worth of body butter. And I was super excited because I was just like, wow, $1 million of product in 1 hour. But I also only made $100. And not that I just wanted to know how could I get to the other side? Like, why was that so profitable? What was going on? So, of course, I went to the Google and I learned what copywriting was and the art of persuasion. I learned who Joe Sugarman was. And I started studying things like infomercials and buzzwords and just learning about marketing as a whole and seeing how I fit into this really profitable production. And then, like many people, the pandemic gave me the opportunity to pivot into something different. So we moved from Pennsylvania to sunny Florida and we got to be near Disney. And I got to start a business that allowed me to use all of the skills that I had acquired kind of as a fly on the wall on the set with all of these really cool businesses. I loved working with like Lori Grenier and Martha Stewart and all these women and entrepreneurs and inventors that I looked up to. And this allows me to use those skills for people that I want to help because I've always been an entrepreneur and I've always been interested in people who are willing to bet on themselves.
That's really cool. QVC, I mean, yeah, that is like the pinnacle, like home shopping, that HSN, QVC,
Mhm.
like the pinnacle of like just how to market real fast. It
Yes.
almost feels like crowdfunding, like what we've done with crowdfunding. In the tech space, crowdfunding had a huge boom in 2000, like between 2011 and 2014. Everybody was
Mhm.
crowdfunding and like they
Mhm.
made millions of dollars and everybody was like, this is amazing. And so like, having that really short window to capture people's attention is really important. One of the things that we wanted to talk about today is just like leveraging PR. Like we are kind of, I always tell people, we're the experts at getting you media stories. And that's kind of our main area of focus. But we also should be recommending and suggesting how you leverage those stories to make the most of them. And so last year, I've been talking about a lot maximizing content, repurposing content. So I'd love for you to just talk a little bit more about, your methodology of we just talked about this lead generation or customer journey strategy.
Yeah.
And like just kind of your approach to it before we kind of more talk about how to incorporate PR in there.
So I decided to look up on ChatGPT. I had ChatGPT right before we met to explain lead generation to me like I was a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And it said, imagine you're on a playground and you are it and you are looking for someone to tag. Well, businesses are it and they're looking for someone to tag so that they can be it and they will tag them in return. And I'm like, yes, we are looking for someone to make that first move to say, yes, I'm interested in what your services are. And the reason why I love PR as a top of funnel strategy or as an initial awareness strategy, if that's a less jargony way of saying it, it's
Yeah.
because the leads, the quality of leads that you get from someone who has listened to you for 30 minutes or an hour or more on a podcast, or seen you speak on a stage, or read you in a reputable publication, there's there's a credibility that comes along with them first encountering you in that way. Whereas when you're on social media, it's much more casual, it's much more happenstance, and they're not likely to be the same quality of leads. You can get a lot more quantity and it's a faster nail process, but
Uh-huh.
are they as sold on you as someone who has been captivated by you for an extended period of time and sees you as an authority? Absolutely not.
And also, I think people have, like, caught on to the, you only show your best self on social media. Like,
Definitely.
they're catching on to that thing.
Yes, yes. So authority, PR, podcasting, bylines, all of these things are opportunities for us to show our processes and our point of view so we can not just get people to know and like us, but also to trust us because we can show that we have a brain and
Mhm.
that in our industry we're working, we know how things work and that they're, like we're the Allstate man. They're in good hands when you see someone on a podcast, you feel a lot better about trusting them with your time and your money.
Yeah, that's funny. I worked with Dennis Haysbert before.
You have? So
Yeah,
cool.
we did some PR for, like, this, charity golf tournament a long time ago. It
Oh, I
just
love it.
it is, like, that's all you think about when you hear his
Yeah.
voice.
Right, and you're instantly at ease, right? And when
Yes.
someone's heard your voice on a podcast or they've read your words and these bylines or in publications, it's the same feeling of at ease because this person knows their stuff. So
And,
I'm
like,
not.
you feel like you're friends, right? We're familiar
Yeah,
with each
right, so
other.
it
Yeah.
accelerates that know, like, trust, and no one wants to be sold anymore, they want to sell themselves.
Mm.
So the more opportunities you give them to get to know you in different arenas, because some people are the tortoise and they take some time. So they might need several publications or several speaking opportunities. They might need to hear your voice for more than 1 hour. And other people are like, that's my person. She
Yeah.
gets
Well,
me.
that's an interesting point too because, that also entertains the idea now I'm gonna have more specific questions for you. My
Okay.
own lead generation
Okay.
people. But, it opens up the idea of having lots of formats, right? So maybe, like, first they see an article that you wrote, let's say in Forbes, that's, like, a very common, right?
Yeah.
So you see my Forbes article, great.
Mhm.
Now you somehow find my podcast, and now you're listening to my voice on the podcast. So it's
Mhm.
reaffirming that first article. And how often, how how many interactions do you think that takes to build
So
that
the advertising, like our cables, they said 7 times that people had to
right.
interact with our brand before they knew if they were ready to buy with us. I would wager that it's even more because our customers are so much more skeptical. They've
Mhm.
tried all the things, they've heard all the words, they've been around the block. So nothing sounds new and cool and different anymore. So they're like, is
Yeah.
this another one is this another snake oil salesman? Like, that's why I had to change my name to customer journey because I can't say funnels. Because it's just like, is she another one of those people that's just gonna be on the beach in her laptop and say, if you do what I say, you'll make $1 million from the beach?
Right.
Like they're just jaded. So 7, I would say, is the minimum. But I like the term authority architecture, and I have to find out who came up with it so that I can give them credit. So
Yeah.
I didn't come up with that, but I heard that somewhere and I love it because when you think of architecture, I'm thinking of like several levels of a building. Think
Mhm.
of a skyscraper. And when you give people lots of opportunities to see through case studies and testimonials and processes and frameworks, and it could be inspirational content, but also educational content, you're creating this like lattice that really strengthens the relationship. So that by the time they're on whatever your first process is, if it's like a discovery call or a free trial or a sample, whatever it is, they're so sold on you already because they know you. Like your content and your PR, it's done its job.
It's
So
like yours to lose at that point.
it's yours to lose. So as long as you are the same genuine person that they've interacted with in all these other formats, you
Mhm.
got it.
Well, okay, so this is a great time to kind of introduce how to really introduce it
Mhm.
while you're building those leads, the funnels. I
Yes.
I don't mind funnel. I like
Okay.
funnel.
Okay.
I just lead generation is like the weird
Th-
one. But
Okay.
But I do I appreciate a good like funnel and a good email marketing campaign.
Yes.
But nowadays, I know email is still pretty much queen, king, however, but
Yes.
like, but I literally in the morning go through my emails and delete.
Mhm.
And most of the times it's deleting stuff I know for sure is like junk or spam, or I just don't read it anymore.
Mhm.
If I see something new, sometimes I will entertain it, or if I know it's something I like, but just don't have time for it, I won't delete it. I'll just like leave it unread or
Yeah.
something.
Yes.
But how can you make sure that you're not deleted?
The first thing I think, if an email does its job, so your subject line first, I think we have to be really clear when something's coming. I love now that there's a soft opt out at the top of some emails. So it'll say, the following is a promotional email about my upcoming launch. If you're not interested in hearing about it, just opt out here and you'll just get my regular emails, but you won't get everything. So then it
Uh-huh.
gives your reader the opportunity to say, look, I'm not buying anything right now, and I don't need you to sell to me, because some of our email campaigns for a launch can be 15, 20 emails sometimes. So
Yeah.
let them opt out of that process if they're not in that point of the buyer's journey at that point, but you can still maintain that relationship. And I think it's also really important to maintain a cadence that isn't all sales. Sometimes you got to tell a story. Sometimes you got to ask a question. Sometimes you just ask
Isn't
for
that what
a tip.
social media is for?
So social media has so much noise that you
Yeah.
can tell a story and ask a question, but how often are you getting responses?
Never. Yeah.
Y- Unless you're paying. And if your company has this huge ad budget and you can promote all of those posts, absolutely. If you're in the position to boost nurture content, it will really solidify your place in the field because people, again, buy from who they know, like, and trust, and you're really upping that likability with nurture content. So it's kind of a return on investment that's coming later. But who has money to boost non-sales content? That's like, I don't think it's really realistic to say to your listeners, hey, you should be boosting everything that you're sending out.
Sure.
I don't think that's realistic to me. If you
Yeah.
can, absolutely, that would be an ideal circumstance. But email is the place that's quiet enough where you can cut through that noise and you have a one-on-one conversation where they're not going to scroll away. At least while the time they're in that email, it's just you and them.
What if it's like it's one-on-one? Okay, now I'm gonna get so nit-gritty in there.
Okay.
Like one-on-one, but sometimes, when you're a person sending an email, and trust me, PR people know this better than anybody because we get ghosted all the time.
Hmm.
Um, it doesn't feel like a one-on-one conversation. It feels on a one-on, I don't know, conversation. Like they don't unless they respond, and they could be reading it, but how do you really know if they're engaging with the content? And to your point, what should that look like? Like, like not always selling, but also offering something. When you're offering something, like other than like, obviously trackable metrics and things like that, where you can like track links,
Yes.
I mean, clicks,
Yes.
how do you really know? Like, no one's looking at every little detail of that.
I would wager that someone who loves your emails, someone who loves your personality, someone who loves how you are different from other people in the marketplace, they do read your emails. They might not read everybody's, but they are reading yours. And I'm just saying for myself,
Yeah.
there are certain people who I hang on their every word. Like, I'm a huge
That's,
Laura
yep.
Belgrade fan. I'm a huge Tarzan K fan. Like, I'm reading all of their emails, all of them, even the
Oh,
sales
I love
emails,
Tarzan's email. I
right?
also get Tarzan. I don't do anything with them. Sometimes I just read them because she's entertaining.
It's entertaining. I am invested in her. I'm interested in her. She's not always selling, but I want to hear her stories and I like her personality.
Mhm.
So I am invested in that relationship. You did mention like the techie things we do. I love a trigger link. I love a UTM link. I Even when you're not getting a reply because that's like the heaviest lift for an
Yeah,
email, I know for a fact people are reading my emails because they're clicking
because they're
and you
clicking.
have to open and get to the bottom to click. So even
Yeah.
if you scroll through to look for a link, I know that you're in there. Like, we have the technology that tells us what's working and what's not working. And you really condition people outside of email to want to read your email because that relationship wasn't built only on email. It's that authority architecture again. When I saw you on YouTube and I listened to you on a podcast, that made me want to read your emails even more.
Right. That's so interesting, and now that makes me feel like I need a full-time email marketing person because Who has the time to do all of that? Like, what do you okay, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Before the metrics question,
Mhm.
because I feel like that's a little bit later. Remind me I have a metrics.
Okay. Metric question.
um,
No. Okay.
but so when you're pulling together these emails, like how do you start? How do you start the conversation? Let's say with someone who's brand new. Let's say I'm actually doing this right now. I'm building a whole
Okay.
new funnel of people, new people, never started before. What would your recommendation be to get them in? And I heard this something about I was reading this book called 1 Million Followers. I don't know if you've read it, but he was talking about the 80-20 rule of, like, giving 80% and, like, asking only 20%, you know? And
Mhm.
so what would you say, you know, the cadence should be of, like, how much you're asking and how much you're giving, and what are the numbers there? Like, how do you organize that?
I think what tells you the balance, so every audience is going to be different. Some audiences are expecting to be sold to because you are a salesperson. And if you never sell in your emails, you are wasting your time. So I would never be the person who tells you that 80% of your emails can't have sales in them because email has an incredible ROI and that's a missed
Yeah.
opportunity. I don't think I wouldn't say 80. I would say start at 50-50 and
Mhm.
then look at your metrics, right? Your metrics question. If your clicks go down, if your opens go down after one, two, you have to like test your audience. How many sales emails can they have in a row before they just check out? Then you know what
Mhm.
your limit is. And then it's your opportunity to win them back with non-sales emails to figure out what the cadence is because benchmarks for an industry are so misleading because everyone has different audiences. And if your product is 20 bucks, someone who's opening an email from ColourPop who sells, they have a new collection probably 3 times a week. It's
Mhm.
different from someone who's I take probably 20 clients a year, max, between
Yeah.
VIP and, like, custom things. So, the amount of emails that I have to send to stay a healthy business is totally different from someone who's in the $20 arena.
Constantly
So
selling, yeah.
yes, so they have to constantly sell to make their ROI based on how low price their item is. But when someone else has a more higher ticket sales, they don't have to sell as much because there's a much slower process for the sales. It's a longer lead time and there's much more nurture, much more relationship building going on. So every business, I always say you create your own benchmarks. When I come in and I start a process, I start with analysis. Where are you now? And we are not measuring you against your competitors. We're not measuring you against anyone else but you, where you are now. And let's try to beat what you are now. And then
Mhm.
you'll also be able to see this is where we really shine. And it might not be open rates, right? Because we don't really know what open rates are anyway, because of, iOS 15 threw that all off. But maybe click throughs, maybe replies are the thing
Mhm.
that your audience really loves to have a conversation with you. If you have an email list that loves to reply, I would tell you to add that at least once a week. Let's continue that conversation. And then let's look for ways to say, okay, reply with an emoji, reply with a single word, reply with a full response. Like, let's build
I've
some
been
cadence
seeing a
and
lot of
tone.
that. I've been seeing a lot of that lately where it's like, yeah, reply with, just reply with yes or no, or like you said, like what you
Mhm.
a smile or a heart or whatever.
It's just training your audience to convert in as many ways as possible because micro conversions lead to macro conversions. And you can't really get to the big ones without going through the small one. And every audience, every industry is going to be different. It's just, I hate to be that person to be like, it depends, but it depends. You kind of just have to look at what's working. And if it's not working, stop,
Mhm.
stop. You know what I mean? Oh, people stop clicking, they stop replying. Well, don't do that anymore. Like, we're going to pay
Yeah.
attention. We're going to review the month before what went well, what didn't go well. We double down on what's going great and we like iterate on what's not going so well.
Okay, so then I'm gonna have to ask the metrics questions now.
Mhm.
What is the most important metrics to be looking at to determine those things?
For, so for email specifically,
Yeah, for emails.
to me, it's clicks because
Okay.
it's a low level intent. I don't think it's realistic to expect every audience to reply, especially if you're like, think about it. If your audience is like CMOs, their reply rate's going to be like, it's just, they don't have the time. But if they're clicking, we know they're interested. So if I'm sending you case studies, if I'm sending you articles, if I'm letting you know press releases about what's happening in my industry or things that are successes for me and my customers, you're interested regularly, that's all I need to know because you're too busy to talk back. And when you're ready, when you're
You'll
warm
do
enough
it.
or you'll do it because I know you're interested because you're clicking through. Some industries, you want them to talk to you. I think if you're a coach, you want them to talk. If you
Oh,
think that
yeah.
they're not gonna talk in email, but they'll talk to you in person, that's just it's not realistic. If you have a very vocal kind of relationship with your clients, you want them to talk first in email, and that's a good test for your messaging and for the warmth of your audience, and if you are targeting the right people, they'll first talk to you in email, and then they'll talk to you in person.
Mhm.
So I
Okay. What is, like, the right kind of well, what are these like, when we're assessing, you were talking about, like, kind of assessing and doing what works and getting rid of what doesn't.
Mhm.
What is the what are like, I guess maybe the percentages are different for every type of email or, how can you really know if you're successful? What does a good open rate look like? What are some of the basics, you know?
Okay. Since iOS 15, open rate, we really don't know what they are. They're all a guesstimate. So I don't go by open rates anymore because I just don't think they're an accurate representation of what's happening, of the health of your email list. So that leaves
Mm,
us click through rates and replies.
yeah.
I always start, I always aim to start at 1% for everything. I think like
I love
1% of your traffic converting, 1% of anything. I just feel like that's a very realistic, attainable first step for any business to say that we want all of our metrics to be at 1%, right? It's
So if
doable.
I want 100 responses, I have to send 100,000 people an email, basically.
Yes. And that's why I like 1% because I find that businesses greatly underestimate the amount of traffic they need to reach their goal.
They
And
do.
so
I
they're
agree.
right? So they're
Yeah.
like, "We got 100 likes. Why isn't that leading to sales?" Because 100 likes was from 5,000 impressions, and that you're not to the percentage yet to actually convert, among other things. But it's like, you need 100 times more eyeballs than what you're getting
Yeah.
right now. And to bring this back to PR, this is why PR is awesome because it's an exponential return on impressions. The amount of people that can see my social media posts is not under my control, right? Like we're slaves to the algorithm, all of us, unless we're boosting
Yeah.
them. PR has a virality, credibility, but also just the number of people who see Forbes or Business Insider or, top podcasts, top 5%, top 10%, whatever they are. You just have this captivated audience that's just unparalleled in any other form of top of funnel traffic.
Okay, so that brings up an interesting question for me. Okay, let's say I do have a Forbes column. So let's say you read my article in Forbes.
Mhm.
What I don't know if you actually know this answer, but do you think it's more likely that they're gonna go find me since it's my personal column, go find me on LinkedIn? And then on LinkedIn, should I have some kind of call to action where it gets them into the funnel? Or on your website, is it important to have some way for them to get into the funnel, like, right away, I guess? How do you get them into the, funnel from the PR content?
I like as many funnel entry points as possible, free and
Okay,
paid, right? Like we definitely love a low ticket $9, $27, $97 workshop template. Not anything that these are all things that are scalable. I wouldn't say like a $97 kind of like consultation or something like that. Like I want
sure,
very
sure.
scalable, low cost things.
Something you don't have to be a part of.
You don't have to be a part of, but calls to actions for all of those anywhere that your name is, I would like to be able to give you something. And that's for a volume based business. Now, it's different if you're like me. Like I said, I take about 20 clients a year. I really only want calls. I don't have to give the right person, I don't have to give more than a conversation because they just need me to listen to them and then I can tell them if I can help. But if you're more of a volume based business, I want you to give them something. I want you to give them a free trial, a discount, a sample, a demo. I need you to give that as many places as possible, and I need you to connect the dots for them so that they're
Uh-huh.
not looking for the next step in the process. That's the customer journey. So at the end of you can find more or download my latest case study at or white paper report or start your free trial at, you know what I mean? Like whatever your offer is that is the top of the funnel that best fits that piece of content, it
Mhm.
needs to be on that page.
What do you think
And
is the lowest, and I think it would probably be a download, but, like, what do you think is the lowest friction? Because, right, like, what if you say, "I'm gonna give them a free and 15-minute consultation," but you said the phone is probably not gonna happen so quickly, right? Like, it's not gonna go from reading an article to getting on the phone. There has to be maybe 6 more points in between. What are the lower friction points and the higher friction points?
a case study is the highest converting thing ever. Like it's just the best way to show someone. Our brains are wired for story, right? So when you give a case
Mm,
study and here's someone just like you who had your problem, and this is what my thought process was to prescribe something to help them solve that problem. And then we
right.
tested that hypothesis, and these are what the results are. That's a story that everyone's like, wait a minute, I have that problem. And maybe she'll think about my problem, and then they'll test my problem, and then hopefully I can get those results. It allows them to connect those dots quickly, and then that's the quickest return. So I love download a case study. They don't even always have to be something like a case study doesn't always have to be gated, like give me your email because they convert so well. If
Mm,
you let people see it, because our inboxes are so full, right? Like you said, we can't check all of our emails. So certain things that are so juicy, like a case study or like a white paper you wanna gate. You paid a lot of money. It's a big report. It's a lot of thought leadership.
yeah.
You know, like a book you might wanna gate. There's, like, free plus shipping. I like that, like, when you get the book, the physical book, and then you just pay for the shipping. You
Yeah,
know that they have intent, right? That $7.95 probably covers more than shipping, but it displays intent
right.
more than, like, download my free checklist because now our checklists are going in a Google Drive or like my iBooks is filled with freebies, but I haven't used all of them. So it doesn't
Yeah.
demonstrate the same intent as something that demonstrates a transformation.
Yeah, the checklist, I don't know, I've used the checklist a few times, and I've even, like, asked the question, like, "Hey, would anybody be interested in a checklist?" And it's like crickets. It's like, "Yeah, I've got, like, 20 checklists. I don't need any more."
We have them already, right? And
Yeah.
they were cool when we first got them, like
Yeah.
when it was the new novel thing, but now we have to come up with something different. What I really love are challenges.
Mhm.
I love a 5-day boot camp. If you are interested in Google Ads, let me help you create your first Google ad in 5 days, right? And maybe it's
Mm,
a $10, $20 challenge or boot camp. And then at the end, I can pitch my custom services or my membership or another iteration of solving that problem. I like to, whatever is the first step of working with you or the initial thing that needs to be done, make that your lowest cost, your entry level, your funnel entry point to make people ready to work with you. That's
oh, I love
always a
that.
good way to gauge if this is something that will help someone along the customer journey. Is it the first step they need to take to be ready for the transformation that you're going to provide?
That's a really cool one. I like that a lot. Okay, so we talked about metrics. Now my questions, now I'm, like, all over the place. Let's go to PR. So, specifically PR, we're talking about media relations, thought leadership, columns like in Forbes, podcast interviews, things like that. What are the best ways to incorporate them into your funnel? Do you have any recommendations on, like, really, like, the, like, progression of the types of content, or does that not matter?
I think earlier in your career, it should be educational, purely educational, because
Mm,
at that point, you're just trying to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about. And
yeah,
if you haven't yet, if you're like talking all these pie in the sky things that are very, I'm thinking the word woo, but there's another word that I want to say that it's just not a tangible result that's
yeah,
attached to it. They're not ready. You don't have the authority, you don't have the credibility yet to support those types of messages. So you just have to be able to talk about what you do in a succinct, clear, impactful way. So
mhm.
early in your career, you want educational messages. And then as you progress, you want to switch from education to inspiration. And all throughout those, as many stories, analogies, uh, illustrations as possible, those are how you're connecting people. So we're telling tag. I like to create frameworks all the time. It's just how my brain works. So I created the AIM framework a few weeks ago. So I looked at a funnel like a bullseye. Awareness was the outside, like the outer ring, and then
Yeah.
intention was the middle, and then the bullseye was motivation. So it would be like, I heard you on a podcast, and then I clicked through and went to your website, and then on your website, I downloaded your case study. That
Mhm.
AIM, like boom, I know this person is ready for the next step in my process. The more that you can talk about those things, your frameworks, how you think, just giving people a glimpse kind of behind the scenes early in your career, those are
Mhm.
what give you the initial traction to attract the clients that will support you so that then when you have these purely aspirational, you know, I know lots of people who work on like 8-figure launches. I'm still on 5 and 6. So when I'm on 8-figure launches, I
Yeah.
can I can have these purely aspirational stories that are supported by you knowing that I know my stuff because I've been doing
Right.
this in the trenches. So I think depending on where you are in your career, you want to balance between educational and inspirational. I think also, Joanna Weeb, who's like the biggest copywriter, she talks about doing your 6 and 6. So if you're covering a topic, you want to cover it in 6 different ways. So let's say if we were doing email marketing, I might say this is a very simple off the top of my head right now, but 6 different
Yeah.
ways to look at email marketing. It could be like, where does email marketing fit in the bottom of the funnel, top email service providers, email cadence, what email metrics you need to look for. That's for, it would be like subject lines that are winning. And maybe number
Yeah.
6 would be CTAs, winning CTAs for email service providers. So
Right.
that's 6 different pieces of content. That might be a blog, a podcast, a YouTube video, might be social media, but you've thoroughly covered this topic. So that's a way to show that educational expertise. But then you could do the same thing on an aspirational way, whereas it would be all results. And let's talk about your clients and how email marketing took them from our 1% conversion to 6, 7, 8% conversion or something like that. And we could talk through the story in different ways that they were able to grow using email marketing. So educational in the beginning, and then we're slowly moving into inspirational.
I like that. And I like the 6 different ways, which you covered, but actually is what I wanted to talk to about those 6 ways of email marketing. So one of the things that you actually mentioned is cadence. And
Mhm.
that's something I think is really interesting. And I think ideas have shifted on it. And my thoughts of cadence have shifted, just based on what I've heard people say and things like that. What is too much? What is too little? Does it really depend on your audience? Like, what do you think?
I know people who email their list every day. And the only thing I would say about emailing your list every day is don't
A
stop.
lot.
Once you've decided to email them every day, it needs to be this is our relationship
Every
forever and ever and ever. This is what we do. We email every day. I definitely
Well, if
think
you're not
early in
ready to do it, don't start it, basically.
don't start it. Don't start it. It's a commitment, right? Like you're getting married. You're
Yeah.
marrying this idea and you're not this isn't there's no divorcing it because it looks so bad when you go from emailing every day to, "Oh, no, guys, I know it's been 6 weeks, but I'm back and I'm gonna try this again." Like, that's just so cringe, right? Like, we just died inside for
Yeah.
that person and we don't know who they are. So, emailing every day is a big commitment that I only recommend for those who are going all in on email, and that's gonna be your primary marketing channel, and you're just gonna build your list and email, and that's your funnel, building my list and emailing, and that's all I do. For the rest of us who don't want to commit to emailing every day, I would say early in your relationship, you need to unfold that no like trust. There needs to be the stages of awareness. So they're going from unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and most aware. So they're ready to buy your product. So people know what their problems are. I think we spend a lot of time agitating problems and talking about what the problems are. We want to get them to solution aware as soon as possible by
Mhm.
talking about the different ways we can or have solved the problems. So that's where those stories come through. And through those stories, I would love for every person who has an email list to have a story for every one of their offerings. So if you have a 1 hour offering, tell me a story of someone who made a transformation in 1 hour
From
so
that
that I can
offering.
from that offering. If you have a
Mhm.
6-week group program, I want as many
Such a
stories as
great idea.
possible. So and we need a story and then as many offerings to be so some people have really simple businesses and they only have 3 offerings. So then they might need 3 stories and they might have, 10 emails over 2 weeks kind of cadence where they're just, unfolding the know like trust and you have a good idea of who they are. And then maybe you can stay in contact once a week or biweekly. I like biweekly because it works for Ann Handley. And I'm like, if it works for Ann Handley, it could work for everybody. But a lot of people choose weekly and that's fine too. But you
Mhm.
can't start weekly. When that relationship is fresh, when they've just entered the funnel, when they're in the center of the bullseye that I mentioned for AIM, that's the time when
Mhm.
you want to send them the most emails and give them the opportunity to really get to know you while you have their attention.
But then
If you
but then
let that
how do you go from biweekly to weekly? Like, you're changing the cadence, right? So, like, how do you all of a sudden say, "Oh, I'm gonna actually email you every week?"
don't say it.
Oh,
Don't say it. I feel like we have to explain ourselves all the time. You know those people
yes.
who are like, "I'm leaving this Facebook chat." It's like, "Bye." Like, I don't
Yeah.
I don't understand why you have to we didn't need to know. We don't have to explain everything all the time. It's just make the change, right? Like, if you're gonna take a rest and you're I like consistency in a container. So, I don't think anything should be forever and ever and ever without change. That's just not how our brains work. That's not how burnout works. That's not how our bodies work. So, the idea that you have to commit to something and you're never able to change it is like, huh? Like, no, I wouldn't
Yeah.
put that pressure on you. If you're deciding to change from 1 week to 2 weeks or from 2 weeks to monthly, just do it. Just do it. But in the beginning, the welcome sequence is the highest converting sequence.
Okay.
So if you've already gone through know, like, and trust, they know who you are, they know what your offers are, they know your writing style, your personality. They're there, they're warm. So you're just waiting for them to be ready to buy, which means
Yeah.
that it's the timing, right? Because we have to, like, get ready to be lucky. Who says that? Luann Nagara. She says, "Get ready to be lucky," because we can't you can't make it happen. So you're
Right.
ready to be lucky. So you've done all the pre-work, and then you just keep in contact so that when you're ready to be lucky, you are. And that's just really how business works. You've done everything you can in the process, and you're waiting for them to meet you.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk. I just have so many questions. Okay, so okay, we talked about cadence. You kind of went over that
Mhm,
for us. Oh man, I just had a question and it's on the tip of my brain here. What was it? Oh, okay. So we've talked about mail, and one of the questions I had was about the mail, different mail platforms. So
mhm,
I've used a lot of them. I've
mhm,
been integrated with Zoho CRM. I've used Mailchimp. I've used Active Campaign. I've used Salesforce. I've used a
mhm,
lot of crazy, all these kinds of things. But a mail gun also, like, I don't
mhm.
like, I remember when I used Mailchimp a long time ago, like, everybody stopped using it because it was just
They
crap at one
did.
point. But now I see that it's, like, kinda coming back.
Resurgence, definitely.
What are the, like, recommendations that you might have for, like, I need a new mail platform?
I love this. So, it depends on what your goal is. I love There's certain businesses who don't want to do all the automations and tagging and segmentation. I think that's cool. Some people are like, absolutely not. That's way too much. So I send those people to either MailerLite if they want something bare bones or Flowdesk if they want something beautiful. And these are like people who are like, I just need to send emails to my audience. I don't need all of the extra thing. MailerLite
Mhm,
can do the other things, but it's just not, it's very bare bones in appearance.
mhm.
Flowdesk is gorgeous. It doesn't have a lot of the capabilities, but it's all in one and it's beautiful. And if you just want to journal kinda, and stay in contact with your audience and that feels good and you want it to be beautiful and you're an aesthetics driven business, I send them there. A lot of people in the middle rest on ConvertKit. I
Yeah.
used ConvertKit before a while. I switched to FG Funnels because all of my stuff is in Funnel Gorgeous right now, so it just helped me to have everything in one spot. All of my automations, everything I can connect from one back end. But I did like ConvertKit because you can do all of the cool, I think, tagging and segmentation. I love that. I love to see where they clicked and to see if they're, a copywriter or an agency owner or a dentist or like I love getting really
That
nitty
feels
gritty
like such a
because they
job. It
learn.
feels like such a full-time job, the
I
segmentation.
I mean, it is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There are people who do that as their full-time job, but so I happen to love the tech of that, and I love it's nerdy, and I love the data. I'm married to a data scientist, so I it just it's gorgeous to me. But ConvertKit is the most user-friendly, in my opinion, of
Mm.
the ones that can get techie. Drip, Klaviyo, Active Campaign. When you see people who have those 20,000, 50,000 plus lists, that's where they're moving towards when their lists are huge.
Okay.
Klaviyo's more for e-commerce, but I've seen other businesses use that as well. There's just so many out there. I honestly tell people that you should expect to have to switch and not
Just
do it on
because
your own
yeah.
because your learnings are going to
It's such a
change.
beast. It is
It's
such
a
a
big
beast, and I remember one time switching I think we switched originally we had switched from Mailchimp to Active Campaign,
mhm,
you know, they offer that they're gonna, like, switch everything over for you, but, like, okay, that's great, but dude, they don't really handhold everything, and then your lists are, like, not always super clean, right? Like, so then you're, like, looking at your list and you're, like, almost drowning in contacts, and you just
mhm.
it feels like a nightmare.
It is forced, and it's not. I would never recommend you do it on your own. I want you to do
Yeah.
this with a professional. I want you to clean your list first. You should be cleaning your list anyway. Like, why are you paying
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
subscribers that are interacting with your content? Clean your list all the time. You want a list of buyers, you want a list of engagers. And after you've cleaned your list, then you utilize help. This isn't something that I want the business owner who's already like the COO, the CFO, the visionary. Like, I don't want you also doing that. You
List
pay someone
management.
to do that. Right, right. Like, it's just no, you have so many other things on your
Yeah,
let someone else do that, but it's not anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you picked wrong. It means your business grew. And it's a normal
yeah,
thing, like how we like change dress sizes through our life. It's a normal
yeah,
thing to say, okay, I have children.
yeah.
That's no or I work from home now. I don't work on TV anymore, so I don't wear sky high heels and
Yes.
put on a makeup anymore, right? It's a different life. It's okay for your email service provider to say, "Okay, I'm not looking for that anymore. This is what I'm looking for." And we don't have to have any weight on that. It's just a normal part of being in business. It's growth. Growth. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, this is such an like, it's such an interesting topic to me, and I think there's so much I mean, I'm kinda jumping all over the place, so hopefully everyone can follow this conversation. But but
I follow. I'm enjoying it.
it's such an interesting thing because at the end of the day, like, I feel like I could be doing PR for you and that could be great and you could be getting visibility, but if you're not converting it or if your PR person I mean, we could do recommendations. I don't think PR people have all the email marketing answers because that's definitely, like I said, almost like it is a full-time job. But if we can help make those conversions happen, I think that's so, like, important to really measure from getting the PR coverage to like, to implementing it in your campaigns, into your website, and then conversion. The only thing is, like, sometimes I think about people and I say, like, "Should we ask them where they came from?" Like, "How did they find out
Mhm.
about us?" Like, "Did they" and we don't I don't really survey anybody like that, but
Oh,
I feel like we should. I always
yes.
feel like if there's a point of contention, I don't wanna lose the customer.
Over a survey?
I don't know.
Okay, the conversion copywriter in me just died a little bit. Okay, this is what we're going to do, Anjani. We are going to survey all of your customers and clients when they're happiest with you, right? They're
Okay.
already in love with you. We've just
Yeah.
had a big win, and we're going
Yeah.
to keep it to 5 questions or less.
Mm,
Even though
okay.
conversion copywriters love what was happening in your life that brought you to XYZ. Like, we love a one question survey. What
One
made you
question, I
download
like it.
my XYZ? But how will we know what they want unless they tell us?
I don't know.
We have to survey them. We have to and I promise you, because they love you, because you've helped them reach their goals, they will do a 5 question survey.
I think that's always like because I've had clients, like, we wanted to do surveys with clients, and they're like, "Well, we don't wanna ask too much of the customer." And it's like they're afraid that they're gonna, like, lose the customer over a survey, like you said.
I mean, if your product's really good, you're not losing me over a survey. I would
Yeah,
just don't take your product away. Don't take the win away, and I would just say shorten it. Make it a smaller ask, but
yeah,
it has to be at the height of your relationship. When everyone's excited, we just sold $1,000,000 in an hour, right?
yeah.
Then
Yeah, yeah.
that's when you ask the question. That's your moment. That's the pinnacle of your relationship. How do you feel right now? How do you feel about me? And how can I make this better next time? Just real quick,
Mm.
real quick. And then we use that data, we use that VOC, and we create more things to make them happy. But we don't know until we ask.
Well, yeah, of course. You're just guessing. You're just
You're just
guessing.
guessing. And then when things
Yeah.
aren't working, you're like, oh, I had no idea that you weren't interested in this at all. And I just created all of these things,
All of this content
all of
for
these
you that you
things.
don't want.
Yeah. And you don't
Oh
want
my
it.
god. Well, that actually brings me to another question, which is okay. So let's say you have these people in your funnel, right? And you're serving them content and you feel like they're creating a relationship. And let's say you got them to buy something.
Mhm.
So what about that next step? How do you keep that relationship? It's like kind of increase the longevity of that
Yeah.
relationship.
There should always be another step. And
Yeah.
so I call it a value ladder. Some people call it an offer suite. You have something for people who just met you. Like I mentioned, those low ticket offers or free offers at the beginning. And then you want your signature service to kind of anchor your business, whatever that is, depending on the type of business you are. But there should be somewhere for your biggest fans. There should be an in-person meetup. There
VIP.
should be a VIP. I love a live event. Because I love an outfit and I love like the feeling of being around people, especially because we didn't have that for a few years. So a VIP event, a live event, or see me on stage, or a lunch. Like, how many of your biggest fans would love to come see you at the latest event that you're speaking at, and you have a luncheon just for your biggest fans?
Mhm.
And they all access to you, and they can reach out and touch you after having this relationship that's been purely online. Do that every quarter or at every speaking engagement. Have a breakfast, lunch, or dinner that's for your people. There should always be something else that they can do. It's just
This is
that's how you
this is
the
great.
relationship grows.
We actually have like a nonprofit organization that we work with, and we
Mhm.
are trying to figure out how to build community with them. And we just started talking about, doing live webinars and stuff like that. So we're going to do some webinars, but I think this is great. Like you said, like have a lunch, like have them come together and see what because it's nonprofit. So see where their money's going and like how it's
Yes.
helping change the status quo of this particular topic or whatever. It's a privacy security company. So they're keeping our information private on the internet, that kind of thing.
And so back to story too. Have them have a peek behind the scenes of a story. Can we so if it's privacy and security, that's probably is there anything that's an offline segment of it? Because if there's an offline segment, can I see it happen in real time?
Well, it's on the internet. So
So it's on the internet. So not really okay, so that doesn't work. Because when you said nonprofit, I was thinking like someone with schools. So if
no, yeah,
I'm
this is internet
done
privacy and security.
internet privacy. All right. So that would have to be online. But
Yeah.
the the thought process is if I am your biggest fan, if I am someone who's looking for more ways to interact with you and your brain, give me something that everybody else can't have. We
Sure.
love exclusivity. We want to be the cool kids. We want to be the one who's like recognize this small portion of people in the whole wide world of 8 billion people that had this
Like
special
a
opportunity.
badge. You need a little badge.
And we love that. We love like community and even more than community, we love like excluding people from the best parts of the community and feeling like we're special in the community. It's just like human nature.
Oh, I just came up with a great idea. Okay.
Good,
Yeah.
good. So yeah, give them
Thank
more
you.
opportunities that feel special. They'll love it. They'll love you for that.
Yeah. So like you just said, like make our kind of brand loyalists something special. I was just thinking like
Mhm.
having we have an advisory board, but like having a community-based advisory board and being invited to that. So then
Yeah.
that could be like their VIP sector or whatever.
Yes. Oh, like I'm a Chick-fil-A, like I'm addicted to Chick-fil-A and I'm what's the top level? Because they changed from red to like there's something above red now. And you can get
Oh,
invited to go to the Chick-fil-A offices in Atlanta and tour them if you reach this level. And I reach it every
oh,
year. And I'm like, I have to go. Like I haven't done it yet, but I know that I've earned it. And
that's I
I'm
used
that
to
person.
be on Yelp a lot, and so, like, I would be Yelp elite, like, year after
See?
year after year because I started doing Yelp, like I used to live in San Francisco, so I started doing Yelp up there, and
Mhm.
I was Yelp elite for, like, 10 years, and once I got to the 10 years, I got a black badge,
Look at you.
and then Yeah, once you have that black badge, you get invited to all these, like, private parties and stuff,
I
like it's
love
insane.
it. It's
It's
swanky.
insane.
Oh, it sounds sexy. It sounds like a secret word in a, like, speakeasy, like, that no one
Yes,
knows about.
yes.
I love it. I'm into it.
Yeah, I was invited to, like, tastings and, like, really cool
Mhm.
things like that, and yeah, no, everybody loves a good badge, like
And love a badge. Give your people a badge. Give them a way to have another badge. And if you aren't the visionary in your team that can come up with those ideas, bring on the visionary that's
Yeah,
focused entirely on the customer and who can use those surveys to find out what the customer really wants and then you delight them. Just
yeah.
and then they feel like you read their mind, but you didn't. You just did what they asked.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And isn't that so simple? We don't do that anymore. And that's
Mhm.
I think one of the things that the startup community suffers from because founders are so ingrained in their own stories that they want to tell it the way they want to tell it when
Mhm.
maybe people aren't actually receiving it that way. And I know this just
Mhm.
because for PR, we pitch it in so many different ways. And
Mhm.
the way it's actually received by the reporter is the way that people want it, but founder says, "No, no, no, pitch it this way." And I'm like, "Well, they don't want it that way. They want it this way." It's so crazy. Like, you really have to keep an open mind, especially when you're a startup founder. You have
Mhm.
to realize that you're probably an expert at whatever you're doing, but
Absolutely.
maybe the messaging isn't, like, coming through?
And you have to make a choice. Is this gonna be about me or is
Yeah.
this gonna be about my customer? Like, I remember when we first started talking, we said lead generation, but without leads, you don't have a business. So
Yes.
is it gonna be about the people who are keeping you in business or are you gonna be about being the expert? Because you can have a really successful career being an expert and doing what you want and saying the story how
Yeah.
you want to, but you can't have a successful business that's all about you. You have to
That's
pick.
true. Yes. Yeah. No, that's totally true. That's a great point where we can end this conversation. But thank you, Tara, for like joining me and unveiling all this juicy information. I feel
Yeah,
like there's so
thank you.
much more we can say. Where can people find you?
So I have a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn, but I am not quitting on them. So that's where they can find me. My name is Tara, Tara, last name Lassiter, LA, two S's, I, T as in Tom, ER. And LinkedIn feels like the Chamber of Commerce, and I want it to feel like the happy hour. So I'm trying to figure out the way that I can bring more of my personality. Before I was a model, I was like a promotional model, and I went into bars with the sparklers and like
Okay.
with
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like like a that girl, and it's never left me. So I'm like, I want LinkedIn to have that feel like a team building event, right? Where
Mhm.
we got to know each other, and it's much more casual. And I know that it's getting there, but right now it just feels very I'm figuring it out. So I'm there. Please come and help me figure it out and help me bring personality and actual relationships and like we can promote ourselves, but also like support one another and have actual conversations and not an echo chambery way. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get it there. We don't have Twitter anymore, or we might not. So I don't want to tell you to go to Twitter. And yeah, so that's where I'm gonna be. That's where you
Okay.
can find me.
Okay.
Um,
LinkedIn. And do you have a
LinkedIn.
website?
I
Um. sh-
do. My name
Yes.
is taralassiter.com. If you go to taralassiter.com/howdy, I will use a code because I have a free template for a welcome sequence. So actually, I'll make it your name. The code will be
Okay.
Ronjini because your
Okay.
audience will know that. And then they can
Well,
download
do PR playbook. PR playbook.
oh, PR playbook. Perfect. All right. So taralassiter.com/howdy. And when you get to the checkout, just use PR playbook as the code and you can get my welcome sequence template for free. And then you can see how you can start to build that funnel. That was the initial welcome sequence that I used. And then I just add to it. I add more stories, I add more case studies. As I get more offers, I just have that automatically go out. So that's a great start for anybody who's trying to figure out like what is the thing that I need to get started, you need Howdy. You need these first 5 emails and then you can build on those. PR
Okay.
playbook is your
What
code.
Now I have another question and we just wrapped. Okay, we're
Oh,
gonna do
okay.
it anyway. The
Yeah.
question I have is for people who are looking for lead and building that audience, and that's the
Mhm.
one question we didn't cover. I think I had this question earlier and I just
Mhm.
forgot it. Can we chat about that before we leave?
Okay. So people, what's the question? They're building an audience.
How to build the audience, how to get the emails, how do we get those people in there?
Building an audience through PR is like it's the cream of the crop. But honestly,
Well,
you're
that's
probably
really
gonna have
hard. That's not even what I'm asking because that's really hard. Like you said, they have to really like love you. But no, just like I mean, you have this welcome email sequence. Like, who
Mhm.
do I send that to? Like, I don't
Yeah,
have anybody.
whoever. Oh, so where do you put okay, it's an
Yeah.
opt-in form. Form is an opt-in form you can put on your website, you can put in your link in
Gotcha.
bio, in exchange for something cool, a
Yeah.
checklist, or like for me, a howdy welcome sequence,
Your help.
whatever it is that your audience might work, a free trial, a demo, something like that, a sample, whatever your audience needs, what they would like. You, in exchange for their email, you give them something cool that shows your expertise, your personality, and helps them win something. And you put that opt-in form everywhere it's physically possible. Like
Oh, this
you
is
want
that put it everywhere thing. The thing that you were talking about
to,
earlier.
oh
You
yeah,
were
like
just
you,
talking about put it everywhere you are. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, we want to make sure that we're giving people as many opportunities as possible to get something of value from us in exchange for their email so that then we can continue the relationship on email. So I'm happy we covered that because we connect that dot. Yes.
Yeah,
Give them as
exactly.
many opportunities as possible to get something cool from you. And in exchange, you get their email and you use that email to create a relationship, a one on one conversation. This is not one to many, a one on one conversation. And we test and we play in email and we get to know one another and we tell stories and hopefully we get clicks and replies and a long, fruitful relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing it sometimes gets lost. You forget that you are in a one-on-one relationship, not in a one-to-many, because you feel like you're sending it out to everybody, but
Mhm.
really you're just talking to that one person individually. So I think that's something to keep in mind when you're drafting emails. I had this amazing experience with was it Monday.com
Mhm.
or it might have been Monday or it could have been no, it was another like productivity app.
Okay.
Sunsama. Have you heard of Sunsama?
No, but it sounds like Asana, but it's Sun Sama?
Sunsama.
Okay,
And it's
I'll look that one up.
basically yeah, it's really cool. It's really great for I would say it's like it's a way for you to kind of keep your own productivity in check, and then they have all these plugins. But
Okay.
the first 14 days, the founder sends an email sequence, a welcome sequence, and every day you get a little tip on how to use it and just like a little note from him. And it felt
Mhm.
so personal, and I would look forward to that email every day. And I really use it as an example of how to write good emails that are, like, directed, useful. I felt excited about it. I was like, "Ooh, he's gonna send me another email. I'm gonna open it." I knew there was something interesting in that email every day. And so
Got it.
but it was only for 14 days, and then when he's like, "Oh, yeah, this is the last day. See you later," and I was, like, kinda sad. I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, no, it's
I
over."
miss you. That's the best kind of sequence. That's how we want them to feel. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Now I'm gonna sign up for it because I need to know. I wanna read it. I wanna miss him
Yeah,
too.
it's really cool. It's very cool. And then he also, like, did his daily tips on Twitter. So he even said that, like, if you wanna see my
Mhm.
other tips, they're on Twitter, and then
Perfect.
otherwise, you're gonna get this email for 14 days. And it was just I don't know, I just thought that was, like, a super creative way to do this email campaign. And this was, like, 2 years ago. So he was he
It
was
stuck
doing it.
with you. It did the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It did the
absolutely.
journey.
Well, Tara, thank you so much, and thank you for joining
Yeah.
me for episode 131. I don't know how I got here, but here we are.
Yeah.
And,
Awesome.
I will have all of Tara's information in the show notes, everybody, so if you guys wanna get a hold of her, you can do it there, and you can read the transcript, of course, but thanks for joining us, and see you guys next time.